Unanswered questions that remain after the Coutts prosecution email search. Keywords, deleted email policy and other details are typical considerations, says digital forensics expert. Alberta Premier Danielle Smith continued to face pressure this week from the opposition NDP in connection to a January story from 24newsread.blogspot.com news.
Subscribe our YouTube channel and click our bell icon for new videos.
For newsread.blogspot.com news. Based on information from well-placed sources, 24newsread.blogspot.com reported in January that a staff member in Smith's office sent a series of emails to the Alberta Crown Prosecution Service that challenged prosecutors' assessment of and direction on cases tied to last winter's border protests at Coutts, Alta. 24newsread.blogspot.com news has not seen the emails. Why is it that this premier is held to a lower ethical standard than that which was applied to Minister K.C. Madhu, after he engaged in what was found to be interference with the administration of justice? Opposition leader Rachel Notley asked Tuesday. Smith, in response, said such interference never occurred. We did a major investigation by the Independent Public Service over the course of a weekend where they did a full review of all of the emails that had been sent and received out of my office as well as to Crown prosecutors and found nothing, Smith said. The Premier's office described the original reporting as defamatory and said it contained baseless allegations. 24newsread.blogspot.com news stands by the reporting. 24newsread.blogspot.com news knows the names of the confidential sources, knows where they work, and has carefully assessed the credibility of the information offered. Days after the story was published, the provincial government conducted a search over the course of a weekend. The province's Justice Ministry said the search of nearly 1 million emails had not generated any records of contact. Nearly 2 months after that review, the scope of that search, and what it may have left behind, leaves questions unanswered. 24newsread.blogspot.com news reached out to Alberta Justice Communications Director Charles Mainville for answers on these questions on Wednesday, with a deadline for a response by the end of the day. Receiving no response, 24newsread.blogspot.com news reached out on Thursday to the Premier's press secretary, Rebecca Pollock, and Jonah Mosieson, Executive Director of Communications and Planning in the Premier's office, with another deadline for the end of the day. No response was received by publication time. Could the search have found deleted emails? The province has said it has a retention period of 30 days for deleted emails. However, it also says that once an email is deleted by a user, it would still be accessible for 30 additional days. That's a total of 60 days. The government's email search took place January 20 to 22. That means that any emails that were deleted before November 21, 2022, would not have been accessible during the government's search. The province told the Toronto Star in January it would also require the recipient of the email to delete it. According to sources, the emails were sent before November 10, 2022. How does the government handle its deleted emails? This case raises interesting questions about provincial management of email inboxes, said William Elwood, forensic lead with the Toronto-based Elwood Evidence Incorporated, a digital forensics firm. The Alberta government has a guide for retention of records posted online, which lists 4 reasons why records should be retained: for administrative value, legal value, fiscal value, and for research or historical value. A list provided in that document provides suggestions for lengths of time that records of various types should be retained, with some ranging up to 12 years. Transitory records, those which have short-term, immediate, or no value, can be disposed of. What is interesting is that these users have the discretionary power to delete email communications, and these are allowed to disappear unrecoverably after only 60 days, Elwood said in an email. In the case of civil investigations, mature corporations generally don't allow their employees this kind of latitude so that information is recoverable after the fact if an incident is uncovered. 3. What search terms were used? When asked what exact search terms were used, the government said those terms were part of an investigatory process and were confidential. Knowing what search terms were used is critical to understanding the scope of what the search would have turned up or what it could have missed, industry experts say. You may exclude stuff if you're just searching for common search terms, Elwood said in an interview. If you're just running search terms, which is, practically speaking, I think what any industry practitioner would say is probably what was done, you're going to run the risk of missing things. That's because internal communication is often done with casual language, Elwood said, which means it could be missed if the search terms don't precisely match. Making targeted searches over such a short time frame would pose challenges, Elwood said. Searching for that kind of thing is kind of a needle in a haystack when you don't really know what the needle looks like. It's a challenge, Elwood said. 4 Were additional search tools used? Beyond not understanding the scope of the search terms themselves, there's been recognition for more than a decade in electronic discovery that a singular reliance on keywords and search terms alone is inadequate when attempting to find information. Electronic discovery refers to the process of retrieving electronically stored information for a legal case or an investigation. Other search tools, which are widely available, should also be employed, experts say. High-profile cases in Canada have revolved around the use of such search methods, including in the 2019 case of Vice Admiral Mark Norman, accused of leaking cabinet secrets in relation to a shipbuilding deal. In that instance, defense lawyers for Norman presented the court with evidence, alleging that officials may have avoided using his name while using code phrases to make the search for documents about him more difficult. It is important to note that codenames, abbreviations, typos, and synonyms are commonplace within all organizations, and that this is not an isolated incident, wrote the Toronto-based Heuristica Discovery Council in a 2019 blog focused on the case. While keyword searching is a good starting place to identify relevant documents, it is literal and will miss responsive documents that contain unidentified code words, jargon, abbreviations, and typos. Take, for example, Microsoft Office 365, and a program like Microsoft Outlook. Electronic discovery experts largely view sole usage of such a program as an incomplete strategy to search for electronic information. Electronic discovery firms often use more powerful analytics tools when conducting such an analysis. Platforms such as RelativityOne often use analytics that include machine learning and keyword expansion, among other tools. The government did not say if such software was employed in the electronic search. 5 What about personal emails? On January 23, the government said it searched Alberta Crown Prosecution Service mailboxes for the period of September 1 to December 31, 2022. Premier Danielle Smith's office mailboxes were searched from October 6 to December 31, 2022. In total, approximately 900 mailboxes were searched, the government said, including both incoming and outgoing emails. The government also said the search involved relevant prosecutors who worked on files related to the Coutts blockade or in the same office as those working on these files. It did not provide more information to a follow-up question asking for more details on whether that would include everyone in the Crown Prosecution Service or just those working in the Calgary office, or whether it would involve all or just a portion of the Premier's staff, writing that disclosing those details would compromise the confidentiality of investigatory processes. 24newsread.blogspot.com News asked if the search just looked at correspondence between government email addresses, or whether emails sent from a personal address on one end would also be captured by the search. The government said its search hit internal mailboxes but would have caught emails sent from or to a non-government of Alberta email address. If personal emails were involved, the Government of Alberta address would need to be either a sender or a receiver of the email, for instance, a personal Gmail account on one end, the government email on the other. But that goes back to one of the main questions, whether any emails would still exist to be found in the first place. 6 What about the audit logs? There's also the open question on whether the government searched the emails themselves, or whether they searched the audit logs, referring to a set of records that detail who communicated with whom, but not the details of those conversations. For many of these systems, they will not only have record retention, but they'll also have audit log retention. So X person did Y on this day, Elwood said. If that was evidence that exists, did they look at it? If and when the UCP government provides answers to some of the unanswered questions we explored here, 24newsread.blogspot.com news will report on their responses. And would also be captured by the search. The government said its search hit internal mailboxes but would have caught emails sent from or to a non-government of Alberta email address. If personal emails were involved, the Government of Alberta address would need to be either a sender or a receiver of the email, for instance, a personal Gmail account on one end, the government email on the other. But that goes back to one of the main questions, whether any emails would still exist to be found in the first place. 6. What about the audit logs? There's also the open question on whether the government searched the emails themselves, or whether they searched the audit logs, referring to a set of records that detail who communicated with whom, but not the details of those conversations. For many of these systems, they will not only have record retention, but they'll also have audit log retention. So X person did Y on this day, Elwood said. If that was evidence that exists, did they look at it? If and when the UCP government provides answers to some of the unanswered questions we explored here, 24newsread.blogspot.com news will report on their responses. Provides answers to some of the unanswered questions we explored here, 24newsread.blogspot.com news will report on their responses.
Subscribe our YouTube channel and click our bell icon for new videos.